The middle of July brings us a Cancer new moon, exact on July 14th at 5:44 a.m. That's Eastern Time. This new moon is occurring at 21 degrees of Cancer, 59 minutes, so we round up to 22 degrees of Cancer in your chart, where the sun and the moon are exact, seeding a new emotional beginning. And this actually has an important story connected to it at 22 degrees of Cancer in your chart. I will get to that in just a moment. But know that this is an emotional reset where there could be a new beginning that you're feeling at a personal level that's also been a part of the Mercury retrograde journey. You can see this Mercury retrograde is now at 19 degrees of Cancer, 50 minutes, continuing retrograde. And so there are energies circulating here between the heart and the mind, understanding something about yourself at a personal emotional level that has you reconfiguring your self-awareness, your personal story, what you've experienced, what you've been through that maybe has been unconscious. And there's energy here that supports a new beginning that aligns with a healthier new start, an emotional understanding of what you need, deeper trust in what you're feeling, honoring the messages, especially in your heart, honoring what you've been understanding about yourself and who you are now that actually is connected to pain that first came up in December. Now, why is that? Because back in December, specifically December 21st, Jupiter was at 22 degrees of Cancer here. And Jupiter was in a second square to Chiron that was previously at 22 degrees of Aries. And so this has been a tender degree point where you've been healing, processing, and moving through something that could have felt wounded, insecure, and vulnerable back in December, back around the holidays. And here we are in the middle of July. And there's a reset in your emotional well-being because of what you've learned about yourself, your emotional nature, any hidden pain, again, that unconscious energy that you've had to privately move through is being reset. And that's why this Cancer new moon is much bigger than what meets the eye. You've been required to take some form of emotional inventory about something that formed you, shaped you, that was an injury of some kind. It required healing. It required new self-understanding. And I feel like this new moon is now ushering you forward into a new understanding of what that was, what that story was that maybe you've been replaying, living through. Even it's rewriting a narrative with this Mercury retrograde in Cancer, rewriting or even reevaluating a personal story so that now it supports a deeper relationship with, I was going to say with your emotions, but it's more specific than that. It's with a new level of self-compassion, kindness, care, empathy, and softness. There has been a softening that's been required since late December, and it's probably been wildly uncomfortable. And it's required you to understand some things about yourself that maybe you didn't realize were existing within you. Because the square of Jupiter, when Jupiter was here at 22 degrees of Cancer, squaring that Chiron in Aries, it was very personal And it was meant to be handled or moved through in a personal way that required self-ownership, new levels of self-awareness, looking at any unconscious habits, patterns, and attachments that you've been feeling, that you've been holding, because the Cancer energy is unconscious at first. It's how we feel without understanding why. It's the first imprints we have when we're younger around our family, our home, our mother. The Cancer energy directly relates to the mother and your maternal lineage. Maybe you've even been understanding some things about where your mother came from and how that was passed on to you, and how that actually showed up as some kind of wound or injury that you've been seeing in a new way and moving through in order to feel more empowered and stronger in who you are and what you need, without allowing any parts of that lineage to perpetuate or carry forward. So the story could be that big. Doesn't have to be. It could just be something you've been emotionally processing and healing. I mean, the three squares that happened between this Jupiter in Cancer and Chiron in Aries, they happened twice in those signs. And then they also had their third and final square the beginning of July, which means that this wound was still active. And it could have been something that felt like an emotional dark night of the soul, or an emotional depth that you had to voyage into. And here in the middle of July, it's turning, it's transitioning. There's new layers of healing that are arriving, but it's arriving with renewed maturity, responsibility, and self-understanding that shifts the trajectory for you in what you want that's good for your heart. Where the Cancer energy needs tenderness and softness, and maybe you're acknowledging something in yourself that needs that, wants to feel supported or needs to feel supported. And because of the healing and personal realizations that have come about, there's a strengthening here to own that internally, to say it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to feel vulnerable at times, and to have an openness to me that actually is what allows me to connect with people in a pure and beautiful way. And I feel that there's a strength in this right now. But it's been something you've had to move through that's been uncomfortable. It's leading you to new emotional intelligence here. And the other thing in play that's made this particular journey a little bit more trying and difficult is that this energy has been in an ongoing square to Saturn at 14 degrees of Aries since the end of June, where we had that Capricorn full moon that was at 9 degrees of Capricorn. And that's when both the sun and the moon were approaching the square to Saturn. And here at this Cancer new moon, there's a separating square of the sun and the moon, but Mercury is still in a square to Saturn that's going to exist for the second half of July. And the square to Saturn, especially an ongoing long square, keeps you tethered to new personal responsibilities that you're meant to claim and integrate. So whatever this has been for you, whatever this emotional experience, this processing, this healing journey, whatever it's been for you, it's meant to be something that lands and sticks. It's forming you in a new way. It's requiring you to stand on your own with greater ownership and to be able to feel the heart, to feel the sensitivities and the vulnerabilities without shutting it off or rejecting it, without pushing it away, but to be comfortable with the discomfort of emotional vulnerability, but to not turn against yourself, because this ongoing square between the planets in Cancer to this Saturn in Aries, there can be levels of self-blame and self-punishment. And the square makes things harsh. The square is a challenge. You could have felt stuck in something, especially the first 2 weeks of July. This energy would have also kept you in a very subjective perspective, almost like turning it around on yourself, or again, it feels like emotional punishment. It feels like just being hard on oneself, because that Saturn energy is ultimately asking you to take responsibility for who you are, your choices, your needs, your sense of self, what you've been building and establishing this year in a whole new way. A whole new chapter of your life is meant to be starting here in 2026. But then the ongoing squares to the planets in Cancer, it doesn't feel good. It's been uncomfortable, or it's been something that you can't escape. And you know how those ongoing lessons that we can't escape, they take their toll, or they just feel like they're draining. And so there's a new requirement here at the Cancer new moon. And the Saturn is holding you to a new standard. It's been taking you to task about anything that's been immature, undeveloped, too emotionally selfish or unaware. In other words, the Saturn in Aries is requiring our conscious personal evolution in our emotional world. And we've had to look at some things with a very realistic lens. And so for some people, that could feel great, clear, fine, I'm good with that. But for others, especially if you have squares going on here in your own chart, this would have been a time of digging through and moving through more layers of yourself that would not have been very validating at first. So of course, take it if it resonates, leave it if it doesn't. But the Cancer new moon has basically required it's had a deeper journey up to this point. And now again, the new moon is a reset. It's asking you to be self-aware and self-loving. And I feel too that part of this energy that's moving forward could be making a new declaration around what you need at a personal level, at a receptive level, that you're willing to give yourself first, and then that changes the types of exchanges you have with others. Because this Cancer energy, even though it's quite private and internal, it's looking for emotional reciprocity and a sense of equilibrium in how you connect and relate, but that starts internally. And so you might realize where you need more internal support and how to give that to yourself. And then as that strengthens, you also see how you need that same energy exchange from others, and what that means to you. So a very important reset is happening here that I feel is beautifully healing. Beautifully healing. You could be ready for a new beginning of some kind. Although with this Mercury still retrograde and in a square to Saturn until the end of July, it could feel like there's still a part of you that's reclaiming trust, courage, and rewriting an internal script, if you will. Also important to note that this is all emphasized because the moon is in its home sign of Cancer, where it feels at home. It's open to the feelings as they move through. And there's a sense of more focus here on what we're feeling. And because all three of these are personal planets, this relates to more of our personal internal world experiences here in the middle of July. Now, the other background layer that is much more vibrant, dynamic, and active is, of course, the energy that's forming with the cradle between four outer planets. This Pluto here, retrograde 4 degrees of Aquarius, sextiling this Neptune, retrograde at 4 degrees of Aries, interacting with this Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini. And then here we have Jupiter moving forward and will be at 4 degrees of Leo on July 18th and 19th. And that's when we have a very dynamic, very active basket or cradle in the heavens, in the frequencies. I'll have a separate video for you discussing that more specifically, but this energy is forming that signals a new day is dawning. New beginnings are arriving. There are parts of ourselves that are ready to go. Let's get in the game. Let's do the new chapter. Let's get started. Let's begin something that you've been feeling has been connecting and approaching in the background. With the outer planets here, with 4 outer planets, it signifies a grand shift is underway. A new era is moving us forward, especially the second half of this year and into the rest of this decade. It is that big. And this is a significant new energy that we're all feeling as these 4 planets connect, and they bring about some revolutionary changes in your life where you could feel ready to do something in a whole new way. Ready for that next beginning, that new start, ready to get going. These energies are in the fire signs of Leo and Aries and the air signs of Gemini and Aquarius. This is taking that big vision and making it happen, putting it into action. This is understanding more of what you want next in your life and feeling supported in creating it, especially as the energies align and make it happen. So all of this is incredibly dynamic. It is forward moving energy, and yet our hearts and our energy fields are still processing something from the past that has been significant. That Mercury retrograde in Cancer is perhaps holding on to old stories, again with that square to Saturn, and circulating in something that is actually over and complete, and you know it, right? There's a sense of, okay, I know this is over. I know this isn't my reality. I know this isn't what I'm actively in, but there's still something that is being discovered and learned from other things that happened, let's just say before July, other things that you've been through that left their emotional mark. But there's also a sense of the changes to move forward are going to happen quickly. Like you could have a sense of, okay, I'm over, I'm done, that's complete, I'm good, let's go. There could be some kind of overnight development where you feel an emotional shift and no longer holding back anything in that previous experience or previous timeline. Now, one of the gifts of a Cancer new moon is that you allow the past to be the past, and your emotional body then catches up with a new start, a new beginning with a new moon, and that's where you feel the refresh and the reset. And so all in all, I feel that this is ushering us into new potentials in July and August. August is eclipse energy, that it's gonna like make matters of the past much smaller, much more removed, but it's because of the work you've been doing and how you've been very honest with yourself emotionally, which has been the discomfort as well. And so there's going to be some fast moving shifts for those who have been doing that work and sensing that the new just arrives. It just connects. There's going to be some powerful developments here, July and into August, that are, like I'm seeing a stage, like it sets a new stage of energy and experiences that again are fast moving, but maybe it felt like it was slow moving to get here. It took a while to get to this point, but that's also how these outer planets align, is that it is a slow moving development. And now they're connecting and things are showing up. So there is this beautiful backdrop undercurrent of hope, possibility, changes here, changes arriving, the next adventures, the new starts, the new connections, the new relationships, the new partnerships, the new love, especially this Jupiter in Leo. There's new love coming through. There's new conversations to be had. There's new dreams to follow. There's a new future to create. And it's all happening at 4 degrees, which is, of course, the very early degrees of each sign. Every sign goes to 30 degrees. And so there's a sense here of optimism. And you're going to really be feeling this if you have planets or points in the early degrees of fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, and the early degrees of air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. There's energies that are already moving you forward, even if you've been processing all of this stuff that I've been discussing. You can sense that there's a vibrancy in the collective field. There's a desire for a new risk, to just go for it, to just try something. And it's interesting because that's part of this Jupiter in Leo, which is giving you the courage to take a risk, to be confident, to show up in a way where you're feeling strong, renewed, empowered. This is the energy too of being seen and feeling strong in your self-identity, in your gifts and your talents. I feel this activating the light body, feeling empowered in the solar plexus. Now, yes, this energy is opposing Pluto, and that is a very powerful opposition that is actually destroying old concepts of self that have been too stuck in the ego or in the previous cycles. So there are new self-identities that are being required, and they're supported as this Jupiter trines Neptune, which is the energetic messages of who you're becoming now. That's a different version of yourself, that different self-identity. This could even feel like you are evolving into a different version of yourself that you never saw before, or you never saw coming, or you never thought you would be making certain choices or wanting certain things in your life. And now when you feel it, it's just a yes. I want that. I want to be that version of myself. I want to have those experiences. I want to make those new choices. That's part of the vibrancy and freshness of this energy. And this is the desire, this Jupiter in Leo is the desire to trust what you're feeling, especially in your solar plexus. And the solar plexus being your personal will, determination, strength in self. But it also is bringing up how that connects to the heart, because the healthy Jupiter in Leo amplifies the heart. And it's not only in the sense of this is what I want or this is what I desire, it's connected to the heart and what you're feeling. That is an important message. And again, I feel like this energy is bigger than a single person, meaning it's bigger than just you. It's bigger than just this moment even. There's messages we're meant to be trusting. Energies we're meant to move towards for a reason. And so if you're feeling that, right, like you're getting a lot of synchronicities or a lot of things are showing up and it's like, this is such a coincidence, or why does the same message keep coming through? That is clearly the universe showing you a pathway or direction to follow that is a yes. That is an opening that you can't see yet, but it's coming through for a reason. And so it could be a very interesting contrast to what you've been emotionally moving through and processing. And again, the second half of July into August, with these very action-oriented dynamic energies, it's basically ready or not, here you go. You know, the doorways are opening where you thought you were stuck in a hallway. stuck in a hallway waiting for the door to open. Now the doors are opening and it's not going to maybe look like you thought it would look. But let go of that. Don't be stuck in the ego around your own expectations or what you thought it had to be, because something's been forming in the background that is ready to be revealed. And that's part of the Jupiter and Leo visibility. Seeing something. Seeing it in a way that actually lights you up. Now, also in the mix, Venus is in Virgo here at 5 degrees, still in a square to this Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini, and this Mars at 10 degrees of Gemini was also squaring Venus. Now, they're actually going to stay in a square. And so this is where the Venus in Virgo wants things linear, clear, simple, wants to organize it into a process. There's a simplification here. She also was conjunct the South Node in Virgo, which is not on the chart here. She's moving away from that South Node, clearing out energy, endings, getting rid of what has been excessive, minimizing her needs, minimizing something so that she doesn't have to manage it or keep it on her radar. And this is also the surprises that Uranus has been delivering to her that probably has been shocking. And with Mars here in Gemini, this is the more powerful energy. So the Uranus-Mars conjunction that is separating here has left a mark on this Venus. And there might have been more that you had to clear out and get rid of than you expected. This would have affected relationships, money, finances, and creative endeavors that have been clearing out and have had to end, especially before the new moon is exact, because these two would have been saying it needs to go, especially Venus conjunct the South Node. And so Venus is about the feminine, women in your life, females, sisters, sisterhood, friendships. And the Mars is the masculine, male energy, men, brothers, peers. It's like teammates and those that you know on a daily basis. And these would have been surprising developments coming through. And these two are supported by the outer planet dynamic that I mentioned. So supported by Jupiter, Pluto, and Neptune. So that means that this energy could have felt like it was really influential on Venus. This Venus could have felt helpless around something leading up to this new moon. She can become more critical, more analytical in Virgo, and conjunct that South Node. Something has to go. This would be making an impact on what you value. Venus has been in a trine to Chiron, who's been her supportive guide and elder through the changes she's had to make. So for example, if Venus has had to let go of something and it was really hard and it occurred out of the blue, I mean, this can definitely be a job loss, because Virgo is about the jobs we do every day, changes in your responsibilities, your duties, something you've done well and you're skilled at it. And then here comes like two people, a Uranus and Martian person, saying, we don't want that anymore. We don't need that anymore. There's changes here. And actually, I don't know if your skill set is needed. We can do it faster. And then this Venus is just going to feel so discouraged and hurt. And then she's been talking to a Chiron and Taurus healer to help her through this change, to help her deal with the loss. Because remember, she's conjunct the South Node. So there's a loss here. There's an ending. And it really is over. It's like a clean slice. So this would have been occurring before the new moon. So anytime after that Capricorn full moon until the Cancer new moon, there would have been an ending that the Venus in Virgo is processing. And she's needing time to heal and move through it. So that could even be a big part of your story if you have any planets or points in the early degrees of Virgo. And that would mean that you're actually learning through the North Node in Pisces that the endings are supporting you right now, even if you don't see it and you don't know why, but you're trusting big time that the universe is redirecting you and helping you move forward. I mean, this can be the melancholy, sorrow, loss, disappointment of something real and tangible. But what's occurring here is that it doesn't fit with the bigger picture that is coming together and being formed. And in fact, you can see how this Venus is at the point of a finger of God here, with Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, which are the bigger players. And she's at that apex point of the finger of God, which means she's learning more about her soul purpose that's different than what she thought or what she's seen. And these are influential energies. These are big deal energies. And so she's moving through a loss here. And I'm feeling like part of what she's going to see will show up when she moves into Libra. And so even by August, this Venus is going to be more supported. So again, if this energy or this information is resonating for you with the planets and points in the early degrees of Virgo, there's shifts that happen in August that move you forward. But this is it's like an old pattern, old routine, old energy related to relationships, women, female co-workers, sisters. An old pattern is clearing out here that you're meant to learn from and see in a new way. So part of the reason why this particular chart is so dynamic is that we have 8 planets and points in the early degrees of a sign. So the early degrees would be the first decan, so the first 0 to 9 degrees of any sign. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The South Node in Virgo, not here. 8 planets and points in the early degrees of a sign is helping to clear the slates and move you forward. And it also requires us to be aware of our own new beginnings and what cannot go forward with us, as well as what can. So yes, a lot going on with the Cancer new moon. A lot going on here. So again, this is a reset in your emotional world from what you have been healing and processing since December, the holidays. And it's supporting you in a beautiful, new, loving, supportive, internal beginning where you're more emotionally aware of what you need, what feels good to you, what is best for your heart. And this new moon is going to support you in essentially feeling different at a core level of your being, perhaps being even more loving and kind to yourself. As always, I would love your comments below. If this resonates, if you'd like to share anything you've been moving through since December, anything even that you've learned that might help others in this community. It's one of the best gifts you can give each other. And I love how encouraging and supportive this little corner of the internet is. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your likes, your shares, your subscribes. And I'll be back with another video for you here soon. And as I said, I will have a separate one discussing the basket of these 4 outer planets. But do check out my playlist here on YouTube about Age of Aquarius Renaissance energies. I started that for you back in August 2023. So I've been talking about this for 3 years now, and it's to help you be ready for, again, these new energies that are moving us forward. So sending you much love. Have a beautiful Cancer new moon, and I'll be back here soon.